Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. We have Mike Irwin here. You know what time it is. It's time for another edition of Ask Mike. Mike, we have some really great questions this week. I know we say that every week.
A lot of stuff about the Aggies.
A lot of good stuff, or maybe some bad stuff about the Aggies, too. So let's get right into it. Arkansas baseball fans obviously still trying to get over that great Sunday comeback against the Aggies that suddenly fizzled. Blood Red Hog wants to know, what happened? We just needed a sac fly. That's all. And the game is tied.
Oh, man, what happened? Well, let's see. You're down 11 to 5.
Yes.
Top of the 8th, so the game's over. You've been beaten. And suddenly this team does what it hasn't been doing. They didn't have just a rally. They had a big rally. First 6 batters reach. 4 hits, 2 walks. One of the hits is a home run. Another one is a 2-run double. They get it to 11 to 10. Mm-hmm. 6 straight batters reach first, and then what happens? You got all that momentum. The next 6 guys are out.
Yep.
That, in a nutshell, is this season. I keep talking about the inconsistencies. Well, you had consistency to get 6 straight guys on base, and then all of a sudden you had the inconsistency of having 6 straight guys not reach base. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about what happened when you have the tying run on third with nobody out, lead run on second. And a lot of Razorbacks fans are saying, wait a minute, this is a Nate Thompson thing, this is a Dave Van Horn thing. They should have played small ball at that point. They should have bunted, trying to move a guy in, safety squeeze or whatever. Instead, they're swinging for the fences. And then there was a big, long discussion on one of these threads, I think it was on Twitter, where they just went into the analytics of what Arkansas does. And the guy said basically what Nate Thompson teaches and Dave Van Horn accepts is that you either hit home runs or walk, that's the way to win games. And they're saying maybe in most situations, it's not in this situation. I don't have a real strong opinion on that either way, but I do say that if you've just had 6 straight guys reach base and you have 4 hits, I'm not sure you want to give an out at that point. I mean, you got momentum. It's almost like you don't need to do that at that point. How are you going to assume, but now we're just going to, it's like somebody turning a faucet off. We suddenly can't do anything. Yet what followed were 2 strikeouts and then a bounce out in front of the plate. Now, one of those strikeouts was a ripoff. Yeah. The home plate ump was one of these guys who must have had a cockeyed left eye with a left-handed batter and this left-handed pitcher. He was allowing strikes that far outside on the outside edge of the plate, and he did it consistently. And Brady Slavin struck out on one of those, and he was really mad, but there's nothing you can do about that. Arkansas is still in decent shape. Their lead is down to a game over Auburn, but they still control their own fate. And if you, again, go on the message boards, Twitter, Facebook, any of that stuff, and I've read it all since last night on into this morning, I would divide Arkansas fans about this baseball season into 2 groups.
Okay.
Group 1 goes, hey, still can win the West. Then we'll come back and we'll win a regional, win a super regional, go to the College World Series, and we'll figure out a way between now and then to beat Tennessee so we can still win the national championship. Those are your positive fans, okay? Now on the other side you have, whoa, wait a minute. Our facilities are way better than Tennessee's. What's going on here? We were supposed to have the best team in the country, and we're dropping. I think they're still 4th or 5th, so they didn't drop that far. That's amazing to me, but they haven't. So they're still a top 10 team, but they're not Tennessee. Now, I'm not saying this. This is what a lot of these fans are saying. And as we look at it right now, we look down the road with what Tennessee's doing. It doesn't matter what Arkansas does. They're not going to beat Tennessee. Tennessee is going to run away with the national championship. That's what a lot of them are saying. And why is that? We got better facilities. We got better fans. We got a better stadium. We got a tremendous indoor thing they can work out in. We got this brand new baseball operations center. What's going on up there? Why aren't they getting this done? And look at what Musselman's doing, and look at what Pittman is doing, and look at what Courtney Deifeld is doing. What's going on with you, Van Horn? That's what those people are saying. Now, here's what I say. You can be any kind of fan you want to be. You have a right to do that. I've never felt like you should tell fans you're stupid. Because you're an individual. You can be mad about this. You can be positive or whatever. But that's what's out there right now as a result of that one inning where everything looked great. And then it was like, oh.
Yeah. Do you think that they can bounce back from this loss?
I think they can bounce back in terms of what they do in the conference. If you ask me if they're going to beat Tennessee and win the national championship, I'd say no. I don't think anybody will. Now, Tennessee might crash and burn at some point. Some people are saying that. They're just hot right now. When the bubble bursts, they'll blow up. Okay. They haven't so far. I know that. There's never been anything like this. As long as I've been watching college baseball, I've never seen a team do what they've done slightly past halfway in the season. I mean, they got one conference loss. That's amazing. 3 losses overall.
Yeah.
They're just unbelievable right now. And I think a lot of fans have an eye on them and going, I thought national championship, I can look at that and say, you're not beating them. So one guy said that's why the place is not full. Bomb's not full anymore. There's a bunch of fans that realize it's just not going to be what they thought. Now, I don't know if that's true.
Right.
But that's just what people are saying out there.
Well, a lot of fans want Tennessee and Arkansas to match up as well. They want them to match up in the postseason.
If I'm Dave Van Horn and I get to the SEC tournament, I just pitch my midweek guys and lose 2 games or win 1 and lose 2 and go home and get ready for regional super. I don't have to play Tennessee in the SEC tournament. I got to figure out a way to beat them in Omaha if I get there.
Right, right. Well, we have more baseball questions to get to. S. Giles says, did you notice Arkansas's third base coach holding up Robert Moore on third after Braden Webb hit a double into the corner in the 7th inning of Friday's game against the Aggies? With his wheels, Moore usually can score from first on a ball hit like that. He ended up stranded on third. Big mistake.
You would have to be there in person to really know if that was a mistake. Watching it on television like most of us did, here's what I saw. I'm sitting there thinking, man, that's into the deep corner. That's all the way out to the outfield wall. Yeah, Moore scores on this, but then the left fielder throws the ball into third and Moore's standing there. But you can't see where he was when Nate Thompson said, "Stay here, don't try to score." I mean, if you were there and you could see where he was and where the throw was, you could sort of judge whether or not he had a shot at making it home. So without that information, I just don't have an opinion on that. Now, maybe we had somebody that's watching this that was at the game. And maybe they can fill us in on what they think next week. It'd be a good question for next week.
That would be a great question for next week. If you were there and you want to fill us in, let us know.
What really happened there? Could Robert Moore have scored there? Was it a bonehead move by Nate Thompson, or was it the right move?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, hopefully the fans are listening and they hear that, and we can get some more information on that one. An Aggie fan on the Texas Ags fan board doesn't like Arkansas fans sitting next to him at the ballpark. He says section 104, row 5, seats 9 and 10. Please try to find a way to sell your tickets to the Aggies. We have the opposing fans in these seats almost every game. Last night, it was obnoxious hog callers. Maybe there's a way to sell them on the 12th man site.
This is so typical Aggie. You actually think you're going to keep opposing fans out completely, that no one in that stadium that's not an Aggie fan is going to be there? Look, even some of the other guys on that Aggie message board pointed out the guy who owns those seats can do what he wants with them. And it appears, according to them, what's happening is the guy's not, he's like what we get complaints with Arkansas fans this year. They don't come to all of the games. And when they don't, they're paying so much for those tickets, they sell them. And they sell them to StubHub. Get a good price for them. And then the reason Arkansas fans or some other fan would get in there is because, according to them, a visiting fan that wants to come to the game will pay more than an Aggie fan.
Right.
So you got no complaints there. It's just the way it is. I remember last year being on the concourse at Baumwalker, and there was an annoying Aggie fan that was walking up and down the concourse making a jerk out of himself. People just ignored him. They kind of laughed a little bit, but it wasn't like, please do not ever allow him in here again. Let's figure out a way to keep him out. I mean, you just can't do that.
Well, that's with every single sporting event.
But Aggies think they can do it.
That's interesting. Interesting.
So
we have another comment on the Aggies here. Parallax Pig had this to say about that. Aggie fans, let's just say are different. Sounded like a Japanese baseball game crowd.
I mean, that's the best description ever of an A&M crowd, not just in baseball, but also football. If you've ever watched one of these Japanese baseball games, there was a movie, Mr. Baseball, with Tom Selleck. I don't know if you ever saw it.
I've never seen that one, but I'll have to.
But they show all of this choreographed stuff that goes on in a Japanese baseball game over there, their version of the major leagues. And these fans are just choreographing everything they do, and it's like a duty that they have to do. It's like this is our job. And I'm thinking, how do you watch a game when you're doing that stuff? Now, I'm watching this Arkansas A&M game, and I'm watching, look, first of all, I grant Arkansas fans do the woo pig suey 4 or 5 times a game, and it lasts about 45 seconds, and they're done with it.
Yeah.
You know, gator chomp. They don't stand there and do gator chomp all the time.
No, they don't.
I mean, you do it and then you stop doing it. How, as a fan, could you sit there and constantly be doing weird stuff with your hands? There's one guy on the Friday game with Connor Nolan. He's pitching. This guy's right sitting behind the home plate in the stands, and he's doing one of these voodoo X things. Like he's going to put a hex on Connor Nolan. And I'm like, what are you, 4 years old? That's what kids used to do all the time. I'm going to put a hex on you. I mean, my hands would start hurting after a while. Why are you doing that?
The bubbles. The bubbles is weird, right? Who came up with that?
I mean, at some point, you just stop and watch the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just
that's
enjoy
why
the
you're
baseball
there.
Just enjoy the game.
So, Aggie fans, yeah.
Yeah, we can tell. We can tell, Mike. Wizard of Hogs says DVH has commented that the pitching speeds shown on the scoreboard at Baum were low by 2 or 3 miles per hour. He said the TrackMan equipment they had access to in the dugout confirmed that and that he would get it fixed. Can you ask how the process of posting those speeds in the stadium and on TV works?
Okay, they did use the TrackMan system to get the mile per hour thing corrected. So now supposedly it's accurate.
Okay.
It's not running 2 or 3 miles per hour slower. As to how that whole thing works, I got a statement from the University of Arkansas, an official, and I'm going to read that statement. And it goes, a permanent radar gun is installed behind home plate next to the TrackMan equipment above the lower bowl seating. The video board display and the TV broadcast feed pulls data directly from the radar gun via a Daktronics interface. Sounds cool.
That does.
And that's the way it works. That's how it gets out on the scoreboard, and that's how they show it on the broadcast.
When was it broken? Do you mind me asking?
Apparently last year, and Dave Van Horn had said before the season started, he was the one that brought it up. He said it was off by about 3 miles an hour. And he said, we're going to get that fixed. We got this new TrackMan system, and it'll fix it, and it did. And so apparently now it's fixed, and that's how they get it all up on the board and on the broadcast, so you can see those numbers.
Very, very cool. Well, look, wasn't all bad news this weekend. The Arkansas softball team was at Florida, and a place where they had never won a series, never won a series ever. Yes, that was correct.
Right.
They also had never swept them ever, so that was pretty cool. And SM Cavilian says Hogs win Game 3 2-0. Dels with the complete game, 8 Ks, no walks, 2 hits, and she retired the last 14 batters in a row. First ever series sweep over Florida, and they are in the driver's seat to win the SEC championship outright this year. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's terrific. Here's the thing about the women's softball team. I mean, Courtney Deifel is sort of done a Musselman. They were never squat until she got here, and she's been building them up. But last year was a real surprise. They caught a lot of people off guard. They just came out of nowhere to tie for the conference championship. Maybe overachieved a little bit too fast, but did it. And then they got into postseason. It was a little bit of a disappointment. But the thing I kept thinking going into this season is you're not going to fool anybody anymore. You had the #1 recruiting class anyway. And you got a lot of people coming back, and everybody now looks at you, and you got a target on your back. That's totally different from last year when you kind of catch people looking the other way. You're not going to get anybody like that this year. And they started off a little slow, but they're getting better and better. Here's what I like about them. It's sort of like Tennessee. They just do it all. They hit, they pitch, they play defense. They don't beat themselves. And here we are, pretty close to the end of the conference race, and they're in command. They could win the SEC, not tie like they did last year, but win it outright. And you've had some people commenting, some Florida people commenting after that series, Arkansas is the real deal. They really are the best team in the SEC.
Yeah.
Now, what happens next? Well, you hope they win it outright. You come back here, you host a regional, a super regional, you go to Oklahoma City and win the whole thing. Maybe that's too much too soon, but I like expectations. We talked earlier about the expectations of the two groups of fans for baseball. Is there anything wrong with Alabama fans being the way they are? I've had people tell me their fans are spoiled. I've had people tell me Kentucky's basketball fans are spoiled. I like spoiled fans because spoiled fans demand perfection and don't put up with it when you don't have it. I think Calipari is out next year if they don't do something. You know, they're not going to continue to do what they did this year. They're demanding. So I'd love to see Arkansas softball fans get that way, get arrogant, demand it. Razorback baseball fans, don't apologize for the fact that you thought Arkansas was going to win the national championship there, and you still expect it. Figure out a way to do it. Those fans push you into being better because that's what happens at Alabama. That's what happens at Duke. That's what happens at programs that win year after year. So I think that's good.
And Courtney Deifel said just last week, I believe it was, where she would say, we're still trying to prove something. We're still trying to prove to everybody that last year was not a fluke. That this, you know, we have the talent. We're continuing to build that talent, like you said. And, I mean, I feel like they have proven to everybody that they are
anybody
the
that
real
overlooks them now is stupid.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
because you can see how good they are.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It would be exciting to see in postseason. I'm excited to see what they do.
Exactly.
Mousetown wants to know, what is Tennessee up to with this legislation allowing coaches to have contact with NIL collectives?
Let's define the term NIL Collective. That's a fancy term for boosters, cheating boosters. That's what it really is. It's buying players. Now, the way Arkansas first explained this with their program, they were going to take each athlete, send them over to the Walton School of Business, and have them be taught how to grow up, be a big boy, be a big girl, go over and hire yourself an NIL agent, and you negotiate with that person and you get your own deal. We're not going to be involved in this. You can do it on your own. We can teach you how to do it. This is not any of that. This thing, which is now legislation passed by the legislature in Tennessee and signed by the governor, all this really is, they have, what's the name of this thing? It's somewhere. They got a name for this.
The Spire Sports?
Yeah, Spire Sports.
Spire Sports, yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. Their coaches can go out and do fundraising for Spire Sports. So what they're doing is they're not just taking money from boosters. Their average fans can just go in and go, hey, put money into this pot and we'll buy players with it. That's what they're talking about. I mean, it's just not the way NIL was supposed to work. But the Aggies are doing it, so I'm sure Tennessee said, hey, we're going to do it. So who's next?
Florida's doing it too.
Okay.
Florida
so
has a big one.
See how it spreads?
Yeah.
Now, here's the question I will ask, and you can say I'm naive, and if you're one of those fans that think this is just wonderful, you're out of your mind, because that's not the way college athletics works or should work. As a fan, do you want your school to win because it's got really good coaches, they know how to recruit, you've got good facilities that are provided by your fans who give money to have good facilities, you got a good campus where you can get a good education, and the place where your campus is like Fayetteville, it's a good place to live. Do you want to bring this kid that just, and we'll get into it in a minute, that just signed with Arkansas, a quarterback out of Georgia? Yeah. He didn't come here because of the money. You know, he liked the coaches, he liked the atmosphere. That's the way, to me, you still should recruit. Yeah. But what we're talking about here is money. Now let me explain what happens with money. And I'll go back to the old, where it was actually called cheating. Now it's not anymore. Let's go back to Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze. Anybody remember what happened with them? They had a guy that they had paying money to, and he fell out of a window or something and did something stupid, and he gets booted off the team or something. And then he just outs them. He just, in an interview, just outs them and says this is what they did. You know why he did that? He didn't have any loyalty to Ole Miss. They gave him his money. Now I'm fixing to go somewhere else, so I don't need to be nice to you anymore. That's what you get when you bring a kid in just because you pay him more money. And do you as a fan believe in that system? Because you're not going to have loyalty from people like that. Oliver Millard, who played for Nolan back in the late 80s, early 90s, he vanished for a long time after he was out of the NFL. I didn't see him much, but he's popped back up on social media, and it's terrific. Big O just loves it. He loves being a Razorback. He calls himself, I'm still a Razorback. I'll always be a Razorback. These are the guys you want in your program because they're not doing this. They did it here. They loved the place, and they still love it. That's why college athletics, to me, is superior to professional athletics. But if you turn this into just money, 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 you're going to lose all that.
Yeah, well, it was funny you mentioned that. I talked to Myron Cunningham just, the other day, and I said, what was it about Arkansas that really just helped you? And he didn't even say, well, they did this, or it was Sam Pittman. He just said it was the coaching staff as a whole, the people I got to be with. That was what made it so great. Yeah. It taught me how to be a person, not just an athlete. I think that is a real nice testament.
And if you recruit the right players and you've got the right system, when you bring recruits on campus, guess who's going to be your best recruiter? The players already in the system.
Already.
They're not going to be coming up to you going, how much money did you get? Oh, you're getting more money than me. I don't like that. You don't want something like that. So what's the answer to all this? The answer is for the NCAA to get off its rear end and do something about this. They created this mess. They're the ones that can solve the problem, but they're not doing anything. So it's been way past time for at least the Power 5 conferences to get together and boot them out.
Yeah.
We're firing you. Would you hire a cleaning person to come into your house to clean your house for 25, 30 years and just put up with bad service and pay them? Eventually you would say, I'm paying you to clean my house. I will decide what level of cleanliness I want. I'm not going to let you tell me that. And if you just stand back and say, well, I'm just not going to do it much anymore because I'm mad. No, I get rid of you and I hire somebody else. It's time to hire somebody else to take the place of the NCAA because they caused this and they're not doing anything to fix it.
That's a great analogy, Mike. LR Tackett asks, is Arkansas football done with the portal for this fall? Seems like Pittman has done a good job of adding some top talent at several positions, but I keep hearing that he wants more.
Well, before we talk about the portal, the big announcement just happened, about 40 minutes ago. And that is this four-star quarterback, Malachi Singleton, out of Georgia. First of all, we looked at video of him. That they had it on a CBS streaming channel. Man, this kid can play. He's accounted for 91 touchdowns running and throwing over the last 2 years. And when you look at some of this video, he's the next KJ Jefferson because he's like Jefferson in his style. Now, he's a little shorter. He's 6'1", not 6'3". But he's big and physical, and he can run, and he's shifty, and he's got quick feet, and he's got what I call football speed. I keep talking about this. This guy can motor. He can dodge people. He can use his feet. So he can run, but he's also got a really good arm. And he looks like they were even saying, the analysts on there were saying Arkansas is a perfect fit for him based on what they're doing right now and what Kendall Briles likes. So that's the big announcement for 2023, the 2023 class. So that's big news. Now let's talk about the portal. Sam Pittman said, I think a little over a week ago, that he's got 3 open spots. There's actually going to be 5, but I think those other 2 have to go to walk-ons. It's complicated NCAA rules. So he can bring in 3 guys out of the portal, and he wants to bring in 2 defensive linemen and a wide receiver. But we've got this portal deadline coming up. Now, that's not the deadline to take somebody out of the portal. It's the deadline to enter the portal. You've got until May 1st if you want to transfer to another school to enter the portal. After that, you can't do it. You can, but you'd have to sit out. So Sam Pittman said, we're anticipating maybe some new faces over the next few days as that deadline approaches that might jump into the portal. And he said, if there's somebody that we look at and say, wow, that's a fit for us, that's a game changer. He said, we'll go after them no matter what they are. So he's kind of got his eye on that situation. I just saw where there's a new guy in the portal from Alabama, defensive lineman. Now, he's had a lot of problems. He's never started. He doesn't have good numbers, so I don't know if they'd be interested in him. I do know they have offered a defensive lineman from Nebraska with good skills. He's a good player. He just hurt last year. And he's transferring. And he's got 5 other schools after him, including, I think, Auburn and USC are 2 that are looking at him. So I don't know if they're going to get him. But my point is, it may be a while before this thing plays itself out because Pittman has until the start of school. That would be all through this summer to make a decision on whether he can bring somebody in or not. I don't think he's just going to bring somebody in. I better do it now. I think he'll just do it whenever it's available.
Yeah.
So I can't answer that question completely right now because it may take time, but that's what he's supposedly looking at.
Okay, but some good news today with Malachi
Right.
Singleton. That's a great get for Arkansas. So good. I'm sure Sam Pittman was celebrating that this afternoon. Lanny asks, what's your opinion on the college football rule changes on faking injuries and next game suspensions for targeting?
It sounds like a bigger deal than it is to me. We'll have to wait and see. Let's start with the fake injuries thing because that's the most controversial. Fans hate that, and Ole Miss was probably the worst at it. Under the new rule, let's say Arkansas is playing Ole Miss, and Sam Pittman sees one of those things we saw last year where a defensive lineman for Ole Miss is coming off the field, seems to be okay, and Lane Kiffin is going, get down. And you can even see his mouth going, get down, get down. And then he's walking around like, what? And then he falls like he's been shot. And then they mess with him for a little while, and he gets up and limps off the field. And then a couple of plays later, he's back out on the field. Okay, if you have something that obvious, what you can do if you're Sam Pittman or anybody in that situation, you can file a formal complaint with the National Supervisor of Officials. And they will review the video. And if they conclude, yeah, there's probably a fake injury situation here, they will send the results of their review back to your conference, whatever conference you're in. But then it's up to the conference to decide what they do. This is where I start going, wait a minute here. What's going to happen? They're going to give him in baseball, when the umpire gives like the warning he gets his book out and writes something. Dave Van Horn, I'm giving you a bad note here. I mean, it just sounds phony to me, like you're just trying to act like you're doing something. I could be wrong. We'll see how it works out. To me, the solution to this problem is real simple. If you do one of those fake injury things that's obvious, the officials on the field should have the ability to review it. Sam Pittman complains, go look at that. They go look at it. They see, yeah, he's telling him to get down. We can see him mouthing, get down, and then he falls down. Yeah, that's a fake injury thing. You should have the ability to eject that player for the rest of that game. If you do that, if they know I can lose this player for the rest of the game, they won't be doing it anymore. That would be the logical way to solve this problem. But of course, once again, the NCAA comes up with this really weird thing that you don't even know what's going to happen. So I'm not real excited about that.
There's no trainer involved in that process either, or is there? Or?
I don't know. They just said they would review it. The National Supervisor of Officials, their office would review the video and decide whether or not they need to send a recommendation back to the conference that's involved of, this is bad. Somebody ought to do something. But they're not the ones that decide who. It'll be up to the conference.
Weird.
Now, as far as the targeting, that's really not a big deal. Here's what happens. If you get ejected for targeting in the second half of a game, you have to sit out the first half of the next game. So what they're allowing now is if you have a player ejected for targeting in the second half of a game, after the game, if you don't think it was right, you can send your observations or whatever, and you can request that this is reviewed. And they can review it and send back a recommendation. If they decide that he wasn't targeting, then what they can do is lift that suspension so you'd be immediately eligible for the next game. But here's the thing that's just to me so obvious about that. You've got officials that sit there and look at the replay. And then you got people supervising it in the SEC back in Birmingham. What are the odds that they look at that, the Birmingham looks at it, but then after the game, you send that to a central location with the NCAA, and they look at it and go, no, that's not targeting.
Yeah.
And they lift the suspension. I just don't think it's going to happen very often. So I don't know. I mean, it is a remedy, but to me, it's just like you're going through the motions, and it'll be like one of those reviews in baseball where you do it, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have
I'm
to see
not
what
sure.
happens.
It just doesn't look like much to me.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, again,
Both of those rules kind of look like a weird way of doing this to me.
Yeah, very, very weird way. A Swine American asks, do you know if Drew Sanders left Alabama on his own? If Sanders left on his own, are you aware if there was any consternation by the Tide faithful that they would regret losing him? to play for
Okay,
us?
I think he got hurt. He hurt his hand. He only played in 7 games last year, and I think what basically happened was he was not a starter, and if he were to come back, he'd have to fight his way back, and just felt like, hey, they got a guy they're going with. I'm going to be a backup. I don't want to do this. So he looks around. Arkansas is an obvious choice because they lost 2 guys that were kind of went back and forth interchangeable as starters. So there's an open spot there. Now here's the thing: if you're thinking, okay, he was second best at Alabama, they didn't really need him. So why do we need him? Because he's good. Everybody saw that in the spring. First of all, he's 6'5", I think.
Yeah, he's
235, something like that. He's tall, he's physical, and he's fast. We saw him on that one play in the indoor scrimmage, sort of force the quarterback.
Yeah, Malik Hornsby, right?
Malik Hornsby, force him out of bounds, and you're going, Hornsby's fast. And he got over there and forced him out of bounds, a linebacker. He's fast enough and tall enough to me to provide pass coverage kind of in the middle of the field. That's the one area where linebackers are vulnerable, because you put wide receivers going on pass routes right behind linebackers, it's hard for them to cover them. I think he would do a good job of that. Plus, they expect him to be a part of a blitz package with his speed and his ability, even if he doesn't sack a quarterback. Coming in there at 6'5" with those hands up in the air, he's going to knock down some passes. So I think from what I saw of the transfers, he's the best one so far.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I think they're all going to be good, but I think he's going to make a major difference in Arkansas's defense. So who cares I don't know what Alabama thought. They got so much talent, they probably don't care what the reaction is. But Arkansas, that was a good pickup.
Oh, for sure. He was very impressive in that spring scrimmage, and I know a lot of us thought that. He was amazing. Eddie Lynn wants to know, what do you think about C.J. Ogrady's hot start in the USFL? Is this kid finally getting his act together? Can he use this to get to the NFL?
Well, he is off to a hot start. I think that first week he had like 8 catches for 80-plus yards. He was named the offensive player of the game, which is pretty impressive for a tight end. I'm not sure what all he did yesterday because I didn't get to watch the game, but I do know I was watching a replay of one of those catches, and it reminded me of what he used to do at Arkansas. He caught the ball about 8-10 yards, and then he broke about 4 tackles before they finally brought him. They had to gang tackle him to get him down. So does he use this to go to the NFL? It's going to be tough. It is. I mean, I know you're getting an opportunity, but he's going to have to be really good, and he's going to have to be consistent. Now, everybody knows he has the talent. He's always had the talent. He just he wasn't somebody that went out and got in serious trouble. He just was always doing the little things to tick the coaches off. And it didn't help when he finally did what every guy on that football team wanted to do. He went in and told Chad Morris he was terrible. Well, that doesn't play very well when you tell your head coach. Now, it was only a couple of games before he got fired, but now he's suddenly out, and that really hurt him in the draft that year. He did come back and sign as might have been the Bengals. He signed as an undrafted free agent, and he played in a couple of preseason games, but then he got cut. Well, once you've gone through that process and you've been cut, to me it's harder to get him to notice you the next time. So I'm not saying he can't do it, and I hope he can. By all accounts, he's turned his life completely around. He's focused. He's doing a lot of really good things. He's making up for what he did because of immaturity. So he's doing it all. But he's in a big hole. It's a big hole to climb out of, and I wish him the best.
Yeah, we all wish him the best for sure. J.B. Carroll asks, do you think Coach Musselman still in the market for players from the transfer portal or the high school ranks? If so, what do you think he's looking for?
It's sort of like what we said with Pittman earlier. I called Kevin McPherson, who's our recruiting guru. Yeah. He thinks that he's still looking, and it's like as we get close to this portal deadline, there may be some players in there that you just look at one of them and go, man, he's a natural for us. So I don't think there's a specific player he's looking at or a type. I just think there's a possibility that some guy popped up in the portal, then Musselman said he is what we want, that they might go after him. But they got numbers problems here. I think they're already 1 over the limit. If you do that, you're 2. I still don't know what's going to happen, with Jalen Williams. There's been a rumor flying around for about a week now that something big is going to happen on the Hill. So we'll see. We'll see.
You think that has something to do
I know.
with
I think
Jalen
there's
Williams?
a question on it, but we'll see. I think there's another question on that, so I'll wait till I answer it. If we're not, I'll talk about it at the end.
Okay, sounds good. I think you're right. Pork tongue asks Coke products for football season. Seems to be the case. Pepsi deal ends its 10 years on June 30th. Everything coming together under Hunter Yurachek.
That was a university decision, not an athletic department decision. So just because contract runs out doesn't mean now it's going to be Coke. I'm told that the general feeling is that Hunter Yurachek, and he wasn't around when the deal was originally made, that he will have some input this time because that's where most of the revenue is going to come from on campus, is all the various sports venues. And if he has data to indicate or feedback from fans saying we want Coke way more than we want Pepsi, he could make a pretty good argument with the university as a whole. Come on, this is going to generate us a lot more money if we do this. Here's what I would hope, and it's probably not going to happen. I wish they would just, when this contract runs out, they would just reject the notion of taking some money from one of these distributors and just eliminating the other. When you walk in Walmart, you don't walk in there and somebody says, well, you can buy Tide, but you can't buy this other brand of soap. You can buy Heinz ketchup, but you can't buy Hunt's ketchup. You go in there and you buy what you want. Well, why in the world would you limit people in a restaurant or at a concession stand at a game? Give them what they want. Why tell Pepsi users, I'm sorry, you had it good for the last few years, but now you can't have it anymore, and we're going to have Coke. Just let them both have it. Let everybody get what they want. Now, maybe it's impossible, I don't know, but that's what I would go for. I just say, we don't want your money, we just want your product, and we'll sell it. Now, I will say this, it's my belief, because we Coke guys stick together, it's my belief that while most Pepsi drinkers will drink Coke if they don't have an option,
yes,
it's not the same in reverse. I would tell you, you can talk to my wife about this, if we're in a restaurant and I order what I want to eat and they go, well, you have to drink, and I go, I'll take a Diet Coke, and they say, well, Pepsi, Diet Pepsi? I go, nope, give me water. I don't get up and walk out, but I never go back there again. There's about 3 restaurants that I used to eat at that I no longer go because they stopped selling Coke products. What are you, nuts? Why are you doing that? Stupid.
Well, Eric Musselman, he's been drinking Coke, which is why there's a lot of speculation that...
I say let him get what he wants, but a better idea is just let everybody have what they want. I don't care if you want Mountain Dew, whatever you want, put it up there. Let them have it. Yeah. Dr. Pepper, whatever.
Yeah, but you're a big fan of them switching to Coke.
If they do it.
If they do it, yes.
As opposed to staying with Pepsi only, yes, I would be in favor of that. But I am more in favor of letting everybody get whatever they want and get rid of this exclusive nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk.
Now Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
You can't forget.
Okay, there has been a rumor going around that something big is going to happen on campus. That's just the rumor. Something big is up. It's fixing to happen. So I had somebody kind of an insider, an ex-player, was talking to me a couple of days ago, and he said, I heard that it's an NIL deal. It's going to be a big one. And I said, well, who? With who? And he said, I don't know that. I just know that supposedly it's an NIL deal. If he's right, I'm just going to guess that it's Jalen, because I can't think of anybody else right now at this moment that they would come up with a big deal to keep him. Oscar Shibwe at Kentucky, I think, what was his deal, $2 million?
A lot of money, yeah, I think it was $2 million.
So they keep him at Kentucky. It wouldn't be, to me, outrageous if, I don't think Arkansas would offer $2 million. Maybe they would, I don't think. But supposedly there's a big thing coming, and maybe it's an NIL deal, and maybe it involves Jalen. We'll see.
Bobby Bones did tweet out, and I don't know if it was actually announced yet, but Bobby Bones did tweet out that he has some work in the works, NIL deals with some athletes on campus and some sports. And he tweeted out, a basketball, and I think it was a cheer megaphone. So who knows? There could be some other deals in the works as well. And who knows if maybe he made a deal with Jalen? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll have to see.
We will have to see. I'm excited to find out what that big news will be. And, of course, we'll talk about it on Ask Mike when it does come out.
And if you saw that play at third base in Game 1.
Yes, if you saw that play, let us know. I mean, maybe someone filmed it. Maybe someone got a nice angle from that stadium.
Did Nate Thompson do the right thing? We don't have any idea.
We don't know, but you can let us know. That's all we have, all the time we have for this week's Ask Mike. We'll see you next week and answer your questions.